Batwoman issue 2, Greg Rucka writing with DANI on the art. So yeah, I mean, this just kind of picks up where the last one left off. There's a quick scene with her dad, who's in Greece as well, and seeing the symbol out on like the city. He looks out, which I have to point out. So I was a bit critical in the first issue of. I'm not a huge lover of Danny's art, I have to say. And this panel of him looking out to the city and seeing the symbol on the side of a building is just. It's like a bunch of squiggles. They're supposed to be a city. I don't know. I like. I know what it's supposed to be because I know that she's shining her symbol against the building, right? I know that's what's happening. But the way it just looks like a bunch of lines and then one building sticking up just it isn't very appealing to me. It's not very clear. Like, if I didn't know the context of this, I'd be like, what the hell is he looking at? So, not a lover of Danny's art.
I think the thing with Danny's art is it gives a sense of minimalism, right? But it also works in all these smaller features. You know what I mean? And I think what you just talked about is an example of when it doesn't work versus some of the other stuff that they do, you know, in some of the other books. I will say that through looking at this and then the first issue, I don't think it's Danny's best work so far. You know, it's definitely been better in the past. So, you know, maybe it's just off. But yeah, I just had to look to see what you were talking about. I was like, oh yeah, those squiggles are rough.
Yeah. So yeah, he basically just goes on the look for her, gets his bike and fires off. But I mean, this is a lot more of an action issue because last issue was a lot more confusing with she's in therapy. Why is she in therapy? You know, and it's setting up this group of villains that were going all the way back to Elegy and all that stuff. This issue is just like them seeing this symbol. We pick up from that moment once we cut to the main story and like basically sending the goons after her. And yeah, sure enough, like, you know, they go after her. They find a note saying you will pay for what you did. And we get a lot of action where they confront her out in the street and she fights them. And there's a lot of quiet pages where she kicks someone off a roof. We cut back to the sort of the main villains where you've got the kind of the older guy trying to like basically start a couple with the powerful women in the villain team, and he's like, hey, we'd be a powerful couple in this coming age. And she's like, you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. You kind of need to prove yourself and all that. You know, like, yeah, you're an upstart, Mr. Gores. You should not be here. Blah, blah. So he's like, oh, how do I do that? And she's like, I want her alive, unspoiled, and unsullied. So, you know, she's definitely the one in charge, which is worth mentioning. But yeah, back to the action. It's Batwoman fighting these like goons that they've sent after her, these big guys in the outfits. And she's like jumping over a rooftop. The fight ends up on the road around a bunch of vehicles. And this is all done silently in the art. And to be fair, the layout and the sense of motion's pretty good, so I can't fault Danny's art in that sense. I just don't really like the line work all that much. So yeah, she gets circled. Her dad tries to help her, and he gets stabbed in the back. Like he gets a knife to the back of the shoulder. And, you know, Kate's in a bit of a standoff, and she's like, I'm sorry, Dad, and pulls out a handgun and starts shooting the thugs, the bad guys working for the villain team, first in the legs, and I'm like, okay, Batman would not improve, but you know, it's not kill shots. But then she walks over to him when he's lying down, points the gun at his head. Her father screams, don't, and she executes him. And the final page is a bunch of like passerbys in cars getting out of their cars and watching as she holsters a gun. And she walks off past all the headlights, and the dad's like, oh, you know, what have you done? And that's the cliffhanger. So this issue is showing that not only is she coming for this team for what they did to her sister and everything else they've done, but she is straight up here to murder them for it, which, you know, does separate her from the rest of the Bat family. And to be fair, of all the Bat family members, I guess other than Jason, if you said, which one do you think is like edgier and could start killing people, it would be Kate. Like Kate, I think Kate is the one who I could see doing this.
Yeah, she was raised as a soldier, right, by her dad.
Yeah. So
you know,
I mean, I think this one was a much more fun read because it was mostly action, right? I mean, the fact that I got through the plot there quite quickly probably indicates that. But you know, all of her like jumping off the roof, going in between the cars, the fight taking place, the dad rushing to her, you know, Jake rushing to her and getting stabbed, all that stuff. It's fun. It moves at a nice pace. It feels quite exhilarating as a result. So it feels more like an action movie. Like the last issue was all the setup, and then this was all the payoff, and that's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what we're doing next with this. Like, it's interesting to have Kate go down this path, but I'm curious to see where we go with it and how committed she is to it.
There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do with the crime Bible. Nothing of that. It's just this group that she's going after.
Well, this is the group that have the crime Bible, is it not?
Right. I think so.
Yeah.
Again, that first issue was so.
They don't mention any of that here, but I think that's that group. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. Honestly, getting used to who this team of villains are again is tough because it's been such a long time since I read Elegy. But it doesn't matter that much in this issue in the grand scheme of things because it is mostly just she's made her big statement. They have a big fight, and it leads to her killing some of the thugs. I mean, that is the broad strokes. And you know, it flows well, it moves well. I don't love the art though, so like there's kind of a ceiling here. But I am intrigued. I'm intrigued by like RUCKA saying, "Okay, no, I'm doing something darker, something grittier, and Kate's going to be killing people, and that's going to be like how we're going to view this in a very different lens than we normally do a Bat book, and that's interesting." So you know, I'm intrigued by where it's going still, but it's kind of you know, it's still kind of in like a weird place where like I expect to just love a RUCKA book, and I don't just love this one. It's like it's got, you know, flaws, and it's got stuff that I'm not as into, and I'm not completely feeling it yet. So, you know, take that for what you will. All right, rating wise, 7.5, I think. You know, it's better than the first issue.
Okay.
Better than the first issue. I was definitely more into the excitement of it, but that's probably about it.